getting back to my Suburban 10 or Suburban 12 diesel, I was trying to figure out the air cleaner the last time I was working on this. This is the original air cleaner. They stick out really far. A lot of people just hack a hole in the hood. I don't like hacking holes in hoods, even though that's a lot of H alliteration, but I wanted to put on a better air filter setup. And I thought to myself, I seem to remember having an old Hydrotrack diesel called Tomater from about 3 or 4 years ago that I had a diesel in, and I had pulled the diesel out and I sold the tractor in the middle of COVID. Well, lo and behold, I started digging around in the back of my garage in my pile of parts that's all nailed to my wall, and I found an air filter for this thing. Now, this may not look like much, but when you have these diesels in these tractors, you got to get really creative with the air filter setups. This piece here is about a 1 by 1.5 rectangle tube, and that was actually a computer arm or a monitor arm that you could pull the monitor away from the wall and put it back, that I got from my work out of the scrap bin. So I cut it at the correct angles, put it all together, welded an air filter on, and this guy now goes out in front of the motor. Now this, like I said, I believe I had this on the original Tomater tractor, and I actually had to cut a hole in this so it would clear the headlight, because that tractor had a ghost grill on it. So this being a 68, 67 style grill, I'm hoping that it will clear the headlights and everything, but I'm gonna go ahead and pop this guy back off and pop this guy on and see if this thing's actually gonna work. I even made a gasket for this out of cork. So I mean, I was like, you know, almost professional on this. So let's throw that on first before I get started on anything else with the SS15. Let's see how we can get this thing going. I might get it started today if I can put some fuel in it, but I ordered a special tank for this thing. It's an aluminum welded tank off of eBay. And I said in the last couple of videos, I don't like buying a lot of stuff from China. I would prefer to keep these tractors as original as possible most of the time. But when you're stuffing a Chinese diesel in one of these tractors, who really cares at that point? So I bought a Chinese aluminum 2-liter welded together fuel. It's actually a radiator overflow tank, but I think it's gonna fit really good here on the front of the motor. It's a narrow and tall, and it has a return line in the top because it's an overflow tank, and it actually has a hole in the bottom that I can use for a fuel line. The biggest thing with these tractors is it needs gravity-fed fuel into the injector pump, and then it has to have a return line that goes back into the top of the tank because it will actually pump more fuel that it can use. But enough of that, let's get back to the air cleaner.
Crusty wrenches fill the night, old machines grip the fight. Save the scrapyard from the grave, loud pipe scream, gotta rave. Motors crank, grease up to shoulder, fuel tanks filled, hearts get bolder. Sparks they fly in darkest shacks, exhaust roars down twisted tracks. Rusty coal, keep it alive, cranky motors make them thrive.
Well, once again, even sometimes the best laid plans don't always work. This bolt pattern is for a 10 horsepower diesel engine. This is a 7 horsepower, so I'm glad I saved this. I may need it for another 10 horsepower engine at some point, but it will not work on this motor. And the reason being, the bolt pattern is too big. So I am going to hang it back up on the parts wall in my garage, and I will eventually need it for something, but I'm gonna have to get creative with this one. Obviously, you know, this big bulbous thing, it works great, and these air filters and the whole cleaner assembly actually make the engine much quieter, which is why I wanted to try to stay with a factory style like this one. As the air circles down in here, it actually quiets the engine down because the intake noise on these things is unbelievable. But for now, this is gonna have to stay on here. I can put the grill back on, I can put the top bar back on, and I can start looking at trying to figure out how to get an air filter working on this. It's a little bit of a setback, but it's not gonna be the end all be all. I'll probably have to make a little 90-degree elbow with a round piece of pipe and come out the front of the engine somewhere, or make it come down off the engine and forward or something. I've done all kinds of creative stuff with these. You can even come behind the engine and put it on the other side, which is probably what I should do with this. I did that on my 69, my mowing tractor. I have a pipe that comes out here and then goes that way, and the air filter's on the other side. That's probably what I should do with this as well, because that works out really good. So, all right, well, I'm gonna put the grill back on this at least, so that way I can get an idea where the fuel tank and everything is gonna sit once I get it. That should be in this week. Put the bar back on top, see how much room I got in here. And that'll be one more step towards the finishing of this thing. I don't think I need to move the hubs on this at all. They're all the way out at the extent of where they can be. And if I move them in any, then the mower deck mounts are gonna rub the tire, even though I can't put a mower deck on this anyway with these big bulbous tires. So I may end up taking that rear mower deck mount off and just putting the correct one for this year tractor on. Yeah, oh well, we'll keep going.
From hot rods to tractors rain, blood, oil, grease, and fuel my veins. Scraping off the years of grime, worn out engines twisting time. Every cylinder sings a tale, metal hearts refuse to fail.
All right, I'm gonna give you guys another tech tip for doing a diesel repower, whether you're putting it in a Sears or you're putting it in some other brand tractor, trying to figure out the exhaust on these things. This is the factory muffler, goes around the back of the engine, and if you notice, this is the spout. It would be spewing exhaust behind the dash. We can't have that. Enter the 1-inch washer. This is a 1-inch ID washer, and I talked about using these as spacers on Tecumseh carburetors. Well, guess what? They're the perfect size to use for an exhaust adapter on these diesel engines, and they're thick enough that you can use them like a flange. So what I do is stick it over the exhaust port on your original muffler like this. You can punch mark where the holes need to drill on the back of this thing. You'll drill 2 holes, you'll notch them out with a grinder so that you have a slot on both sides, and then you pop that guy right on there, bolt it down with the original factory nuts, and you can weld a 1-inch pipe nipple onto this. Then you can use any muffler you want. You can put a pepper shaker on this, you can adapt it into a stack, you can just make it come out the front and straight pipe it if you want. But I don't know why you'd want to do that, because you'll never hear again. It's wicked loud. But this is what I use for an exhaust adapter on these engines, and they work great.
Garage heat, sweat drips like rain. Gears they grind, drive us insane. Fuel ignites the dreams untold, breathing life in rusty gold.